I'm in the National Theatre car park to meet Ian and Andy to talk about comedy. Comedy. Fucking labyrinth. A little bit of culture. A little bit of basically what's happening here. Maybe like £25 for a soybean burger. Get one. Okay. Get out of here. I cannot begin to tell you how difficult it is to find somewhere to do a fucking video. You try and go somewhere quiet, fucking cunts are everywhere all the time, going into their houses, driving fucking cars, wandering along the pavement. So you go down a side road because you want to get away from those people, and then people milling around. It's like fucking Paperboy, the computer game. Fuck off. This little speech is about how my comedy is going. Somebody said to me, I should engage a little more about that side of things. So this is going to be a little bit about comedy and doing comedy and how I'm finding it. As a complete nobody, as a complete beginner, as somebody who's been doing it for 1 year. So, how is it going? All right, I suppose. I don't know. I go to open mics. I have okay gigs. I feel like I've learned how to be more in the room. I mean, these all sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. It's an ongoing process of working out what this art is about. I'm enjoying the challenge, though sometimes you do just think, what the fuck? Driving into London for an hour and doing 5 minutes and then driving home for an hour, you do think, is it worth it? But what this is about is paying your dues, isn't it? Like, I think if you start anything, you have to be a white belt. And at the moment, I'm a super white belt. My belt is pristine, white and clean. I do, however, think that I've had some improvement. I know some people who have just started. Even though their material was great, I could see the difference between me and a couple of friends who've been doing it for a year and them. And that was the first time a couple of months ago that I was like, oh, there's the difference. You can tell more experienced comedians that they have an ease to them, which most other people don't. I'm a member of a lot of Facebook groups to do with comedy, and they always post gigs, and you apply for gigs that way. So getting gigs is pretty easy. I'm sure that in the 90s you had to pick up a phone and ring people. It would have been a lot harder. But these are all essentially open mic nights. So these are gigs where you don't get paid. You don't get paid. You just go on and you do your 5 or 7 minutes or something like that. I've done a couple of Friday nighters, I think. Normally these are bringer gigs where you have to bring somebody to the gig with you, but it does mean you then get an audience. I've also done a few quite a few where there's real audience members, not friends or anything, but people who just go, oh, it's comedy, so we'll go and look at it. And I did one not that long ago where about 30 people just turned up from an office and they were like, yeah. And whilst that freaked me out, it's actually easier to do gigs where there are and more genuine people, because it kind of turns into like an energy. When you're doing gigs to 12 people or 10 people in a room, that's much harder. Comedy is a lot about an energy, I'm finding, and a turn of phrase. For example, I had a thing about going to get a haircut that I was doing about a year ago. I just had a gig recently where I've got a whole thing about getting a haircut again, but it went down much better and it had a completely different angle to it. So, I don't know, you start to learn how to put phrases together. Two things. One, it's terrifying. End of story. You get a little bit more used to it at times, but it still so far is terrifying. Two, you have to make all of your mistakes in public. So I'm aware that people come to see me and think, well, this is shit, or they see something I've done on YouTube and they think this is shit. So I've removed some of my older videos from YouTube now, because it is shit. But, you know, no one goes to see Eric Clapton when he's been playing guitar for 6 months and go, this is shit. It's like, no, you don't. You see him 15 years later when he's in a famous band, and then you go, oh, I want to go see Cream. I don't know why I used the oldest example of a band there. Someone whizzing it by on a bike, absolutely caning it, but they've got a basket on the bike. It just doesn't fit. Go slower, you got a basket. But the point is, you see a band or you see a magician or you see an artist or whatever producing their best works. But with stand-up, you have to see all the mess at the beginning as well. It's the only thing you have to practice in public. In terms of getting paid, that doesn't ever happen, at least not for me at the moment. In terms of doing anything more than 5 or 7 minutes, that's never happened. I don't even know whether I've got 7 minutes. Maybe. But I've certainly gone to 7 minutes when I wasn't meant to. I've done gigs all in London, apart from one, which I did in Eton the other day. I've got one booked for Cambridge coming up in 2020. Got lots of plans for 2020, but the plan is just getting better. Not worrying about who I'm playing to, who's in the room or how many people are there. Not even worrying about getting recognition. Just getting better at the craft. I'm focusing on one thing, which is just getting better at the craft. Confidence is probably the biggest blocker. I have some comedy friends now, and essentially confidence is the biggest blocker for most people. There's one guy I know who's did my podcast with me, a guy called Philip. Check it out. I'll post a link below. He was really good anyway, but he's won a couple of like gong shows and things like that, and he runs his own show and he's getting some recognition. But he seems to have no fear, absolutely no fear about stand-up. It helps that he just seems to be so, this is what I'm doing. There's no question, there's no pretending that he's trying to be a comedian. He is a comedian, and he is, so good for him. What I would say is, when I first got up on stage on my first gig, you got a big bright light in your face and there were people in the audience that you can't really see, and I had a mic and it's and your voice is amplified. The first thing that crossed my mind, this feels right. That's actually what I got. It was like an aha moment. It was like, this feels comfortable. On stage, with a mic, wandering around, it was almost like I couldn't believe that I got an opportunity where everyone shut up and I got to speak for 5 minutes into the mic. The idea of comedy for some people does not appeal. To me, it felt right. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get nervous or I'm not up there thinking, oh God, or even when it's going well, you're not really in the moment. But that for me personally, getting up on that stage felt very right. I think comedy has to be your thing if you're going to do it, because the beginning is just so fucking hard. Anyway, that's how my comedy has been going for the last year. I've been gigging regularly. I normally do 1 a week, maybe 2 a week if I'm ambitious. I did 3 a week once and it shattered me. But I know people who do like 8 a week, 10 a week. So I'm not in any way, shape or form a benchmark. But that's a bit of an update. Do people want to hear this? Do you want to hear this? Oh, look, he's taking the shades off now and his eyes look small. That's always the way, have you noticed? Like, suddenly your eyes look small and vulnerable. You know when you got a mate who's got glasses and he takes his glasses off and then his eyes just look like piss holes in the snow? Much cooler with these on, isn't it?